Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to do something that I promised that I would do a few days ago, and I was planning on timing it with something, but that something isn't going to happen until Tuesday, so I just kind of thought, what the hell? Because I really didn't know what else to do for today. I thought I could give Safi a little break since I do have those two other videos that she has to do. And there might not be a video on Friday, possibly, because I have an appointment, and so, I might have to, take some sort of medication after the appointment, and so I don't know how I'll feel enough to do a review. So, anyways, I am here to do an analysis of Don't Make Waves, the 1967 Sharon Tate movie. And right off the bat, I had a really big problem with this movie. Number one, because it's the only thing so far where I've been really upset with having to pay for it. With Americanization of Emily, I didn't care. Honestly, I'd like to buy that movie and have it on Blu-ray because I could watch it anytime, forever. It's a perfect movie. It's one of the best ever. And then like some others, like TV episodes, for sure, like I think I paid for the Mr. Ed ones or the Man from U.N.C.L.E. I was fine with doing that. But with this movie, ugh. Like I was like, this was a bad experience. It was a bad Easter. It was a bad movie. It was just awful. It was like a living hell. And part of the reason was because it was so reminiscent of Christmas 2021, where I watched Licorice Pizza, and at the same time I was having to do all this cooking stuff, and how holidays can be. But the funny thing is though is that at least Christmas 2021 was pretty entertaining. It was pretty nice. Easter this year was just awful. Watching this movie, being sick, and it was the worst. It was like this movie. It's a nightmare, and you got to think why. Like, it is based on a book, and so I wanted to make sure you guys knew that there's a book called Muscle Beach, which I think is a very bizarre title because the movie doesn't really have much to do with Muscle Beach. It really doesn't. It really doesn't, it's just a weird title. Like it's like, what if you named The Dark Knight School Bus? Because there's that one part where Joker steals a school bus and drives it out of the bank. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a weird title. But let's actually read, because I probably should have done this before the video, but I want to see what is the book about. This says, and now let me read it to you, because honestly, another thing is I didn't want to fucking watch this movie again. Or I did, but I didn't want to have to pay for it. I didn't want to have to pay to even rent it again. Like, that's how much I didn't care for this movie. And so, there is quite a bit to say, though. Like, I have a very good memory. And so, hopefully, it will be sufficient for now. I might go back at a later date and do a second part of this analysis, with this kind of being the primer. So maybe I'll do that on Tuesday. Not sure. So this is the book Muscle Beach, 1959 book. Carlo Cofield a restless World War II veteran in New York City, alternates between work at the Atlantic Novelty Company and hanging out at the Treble Bar listening to the Quo Vadis Quartet, impulsively entering an office of sea spray swimming pools. He pitches a sale to a client on Long Island. A condition of him making the sale is he is transferred to the sea spray office in Los Angeles. During his flight to the coast, he places his necktie in an air sickness bag for disposal, never to be worn again. What? That's really random. I don't get why that's a part of this blurb. In LA, he meets Vic Salter and his chimp, Simeon, in a bar up on Sunset Boulevard, right? Vic introduces Carlo to hit songwriter Prescott Tom, whose sister Toby takes him to the beach to see the bodybuilders. Carlo joins them to get close to the beautiful Jocelyn, but eventually he finds happiness and fulfillment with Toby. Well, guys, that's a completely different story. What? I don't understand. What movie did I watch? And it's unfortunate because the author apparently, he only wrote 4 books. That's sad. I'd like to read his books, kinda. Because honestly, the book sounds interesting. At least it makes sense as a story. There's a guy who works at a swimming pool company. He's got to move to LA because of a sale. And then he meets some people and he falls in love with 2 people, but then he picks one. That's a simple story. And then the movie, but wait a second, it says the author wrote the movie. Well, I wonder if he wrote any other movies. Again, this is all stuff I should have looked up before the video. But honestly, let's look him up on IMDb, because I want to see if he's got any other movies that I can watch and see if he improved as a writer. Yeah, he does. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other movies and a play. And he died in 1995. Wait, it was a she? Oh, wait. Is it a she? That's not a she, that's a he. What? Guys, you see how much of a disaster this movie is and this book and everything? I can't even figure out if the author of the book is a he or a she. He looks like a he. He looks like a he. I mean, he looks like fucking, I don't know, like Jimmy Hoffa. And then you go to his IMDb and it says she. It says Ira Wallach, which that is a really cool name. I'm gonna fucking Charles Dickens this guy's name. Okay, that doesn't sound right. I'm gonna Charles Dickens this guy's name. So, guys, just so you know, I am totally gonna be naming a character in a movie Ira Wallach, because that is just the coolest name ever, in my opinion. But it says she. It says she was a writer. She died on 2nd of December 1995. It's a he. It's not a she, it's a he. But then it says he in the trivia. What the fuck is up with this? You go to the trivia. So in biography, mini bio, whoever wrote the bio is a fucking retard. Oh, I found something very interesting that I'm going to be revealing. It says he disliked Don't Make Waves, but spoke nicely of the movie's director. But that's weird. Didn't he write the script? Oh, Safi's asking me a question. Isn't it weird how every time I do a video, there's always a question to be asked from somebody from anywhere, like all over the world. I'll just randomly get a message from Norway or Sweden or Japan or Hungary, and somebody's like, Michael, can I ask you a question? So it says trivia. He briefly attended Cornell. He moved to Palestine where he worked in the potash industry. What's that? During World War II. He served in the army in the Pacific Theater, and he became a fucking sergeant. This is a he, not a she. Why are they writing she? That's pretty bad, IMDb. I mean, that's weak sauce. I mean, I know anyone can make edits, but still. I mean, just because his name is Ira. So anyways, this movie, in my opinion, it has a lot of, I mean, just in terms of reading the book summary is pretty telling. Because the movie, all the changes that they make, you guys gotta pay attention. The first thing you gotta look at in regards to the symbolism and this deeper meaning stuff, esoteric, I don't know how to describe it, like, you know, looking behind the curtain. You have to look at the changes that they make from the source material, because all those changes are the real window into their minds. All the stuff that they leave in the movie, like the basic plot, all of that is just, you know, it's also a part of it, but the main thing that you need to look at are the changes that they make. The things that they're like, we need to insert this, we need to change this, because that is going to tell you what did they want to mean making this movie, what did they want to mean in doing this symbolism here and there and everywhere. So the movie, I just have to talk about, like, behind the movie, because, like, my mind is blown. I mean, this is very similar to the Dungeons and Dragons review, where I'm kind of, like, completely on another planet. So, one of the main things that I wanted to point out is how Jay's relationship with Sharon, it ended 1 year before this movie came out. And very interestingly, you know, the way that You-Know-Who got her interested in him was a very similar sort of sinister, tricky scheme and scam that he did by taking her all the way to England to make a movie and everything. And it was basically like a trap. And it's very interesting because in this movie, too, that you have a similar situation and is like the center point of the movie. I mean, really, everything in this movie all revolves around her. It all revolves around him wanting to get with her. And basically, the movie is built around that. Like, that's the sculpture on top of the cake. And then everything, all the cake is just meaningless. You know, like, the sculpture is the thing that matters. And, you know, Malibu in the movie, she is in a relationship with Harry, who's a bodybuilder. He's a very nice guy. And they're the same age, you know, they're like in their late 20s probably, or middle 20s. But then the main character, played by Tony Curtis, He is a lot older, and you can tell, just like you know who. And so, the plot in the movie is very similar in the sense that, what happens in the movie kind of happened in real life in a way, as well as even like the aftermath where, where in real life apparently, Jay, when he found out that she was going to leave him for you know who, he flew to England to meet him and to talk with him. And the same thing happens like in this movie at the end, where Harry comes to the house that's gonna go off the cliff, and he comes inside, and you think he's gonna tear apart the main character like he deserves, and instead he just wants to ask him why did he do that, and he just wants to talk to him and hash things out, and he's a very nice guy. And so, like, very similar situations here. And I think that it is all purposeful because of the timing. I mean, the timing with all these projects is very purposeful as well. And so the thing that I wanted to reveal, of course, another sort of intentional, I don't know how to describe it, but Ira Wallach, his middle name is Jay. And so that is probably why they picked that book. It's probably why they wanted her to be in this movie, and why the timing of the movie is because it was all a messaging thing to signify that in real life this was going to happen and this was going to happen, and there's nothing that anyone can do about it because they manipulate everything behind the scenes. And so to me that's the meaning of this movie. At the end of it, all of it is about how taking her away from Jay, in my opinion, from what I can decipher from this crappy movie. Another thing too, because at first I was like, it's pretty interesting how at the end they all might possibly die and everything, and so I was going to kind of connect that, but I really couldn't find any connection. And it was really hard to like analyze this movie when I watched it, even because the movie just kept on constantly changing and becoming something that it wasn't over and over. Like, it couldn't decide, is it going to be a movie about Muscle Beach? Because that could have been cool, that could have been funny. Is it going to be a movie about selling pools? Is it going to be what's it going to be? Like, there's just no consistent vision in this movie, and it really hurts it, but at the same time, why? Because they don't really care. They just care about getting the message across underneath the story. So yeah, I'd really like to read the book. Anyways, let's go to the next thing, the next topic. As we were talking about with the Beverly Hillbillies, about advertising her in association with, that show and this movie. Well, pretty interestingly, this movie, they kind of tried to make this movie her debut for some reason. Like, it says it's generally considered to be her debut, even though it isn't. I guess it was the first to be released in theaters. MGM mounted an extensive publicity campaign that was based largely on her character Malibu, and life-size cardboard cutouts of her wearing a bikini were placed in cinema foyers throughout the U.S. And it was also linked to a widespread advertising campaign by Coppertone. So that's a sunscreen company. So there you go. Like, this movie she's hardly in the movie. She's in the movie for like fucking 5 minutes here and there. She's hardly in the movie. But yet they just centered the entire movie around this character and around this person. And the reason why is because that they're telling people that that's the meaning in the movie and that that's what they need to look at. And so if the meaning was about the main guy, they would have made the advertising campaign all about him. They would have made it about, like, I'm trying to think of an example, a great example, because there are a lot of examples of this creepy, symbolic stuff. Well, I guess, nah. Well, I guess that Alec Baldwin movie, you know, the one where he had that little, you know what, last year, he had that little thing happen on set. You know, that whole movie is about sort of like a similar thing to what happened in real life. And so it's kind of like, it's a weird thing. And so that would be a great example. I'm trying to think of any others because it would be helpful to share with you guys like a good sort of base of comparison. But I can't really think of one right now, unfortunately. And so at the same time, I was trying to search for a meaning. I was trying to search for, okay, we have that whole plot with her and Harry. She gets taken away from Harry, and she has to be with Tony Curtis. And then at the end of the movie, Harry gets back with her, which of course, I guess it didn't happen in real life the way with the real people, or it might have, apparently. I saw this documentary about Jay, and apparently, like, they were back together before they died, and she was going to divorce you-know-who, and they were going to get back together, which is pretty nice. But I found something that is probably the most telling thing about the whole movie. It's probably the biggest just the creepiest thing out of all these analyses that I've done. It would be this. So there's parachuting sequences in the movie, obviously, because Malibu is a professional parachuter. And there was this guy named Bob Bucor, and he had been doing this for 8 years, and he was hired as a free fall cameraman to do this movie. And now let me read to you, I'm just reading this all off of Wikipedia. No one knows exactly what happened to Bob. No one knows, guys, no one knows. But when he was filming for this movie, or wait a second, was he hired to film for the movie? Now I'm kind of confused here. No, I think he was hired for the movie. It says, no one knows exactly what happened to Bob, but it is likely, it's not 100% certain, it's likely that winds aloft prevented him from reaching the beach landing zone once under his open round Paracommander parachute. Now, I would also like to point out the same type of thing kind of happens in the movie where Tony Curtis accidentally falls out of the helicopter and she hands him a parachute and it does not open properly and it flies away. And so she has to grab onto him and save him. So it's pretty interesting, that parallel as well. So see, guys, they tell you everything that they're going to do in real life. They tell you. And it says instead he landed in the Pacific Ocean off of Malibu, California, and he drowned to death. There you go, guys. Rescue divers later found Bob sitting upright on the ocean floor with his camera helmet off, but tightly clutched in his arms. The consensus of people who knew him is that he might have saved himself by jettisoning his heavy camera helmet, but he was too much of a professional to not bring back the images he was paid to capture. The film he exposed in the sky above was salvaged from the camera and is included in the aerial scenes you see in the movie. Now, now listen to this. His name does not appear in the credits of the film. They got this guy to do camera work that was dangerous, and he died. And the people who made this movie, the people in the studio behind the making of this movie, they did not put his name in the credits of the film. The only way that his name was mentioned is because of Sharon. And it says something weird about uncredited stuntman who drowned in the Pacific Ocean. And apparently she really did not like filming this movie. She thought it was a terrible experience, and she also didn't like that happening. And it says Bob was posthumously inducted into the Skydiving Hall of Fame in 2012. And then he died, so the date that he died was July 27th, 1966. He was 33 years old, and I bet there's number symbolism there, numerology. So the interesting thing about this is that, number one, the movie was released. Well, no, that doesn't have anything to do with it. So, see, this is kind of what it's like behind the scenes. What did I want to look up? Never mind. So there you go. Like, you know, in all these TV show episodes and all these movies, been talking about sacrifices, and I know that you guys were just waiting for me to bring up sacrifice symbolism in regards to these movies and shows. But the interesting thing for this movie is that the sacrifice happened for real. And this guy sacrificed himself. It literally makes a point. This is how I know that they probably, somebody or some persons had something to do with his death, is at least like making sure it would turn out how it did, is because they make sure to emphasize that he sacrificed his life so that they could have the footage that he was hired to film. And that's how you know that something is fishy, because this is Wikipedia. They are making sure that you know that that sacrifice took place. That you know that this guy, he jumped, he was doing free fall camera, just shots of, diving down and looking all over California, and then all of a sudden he gets blown away. He gets blown away from where he's supposed to land, and he drowns. Okay, I don't believe that. Sorry, that's just another one of those Hollywood deaths where somebody in Hollywood dies, and they try to sell a story that's just completely ridiculous, and then you're like, yeah, that didn't happen. Like, the thing where they said that, like, fucking Bob Saget, the way that they say that he died, supposedly, like, yeah, what a bunch of fucking bullshit. And this is a similar thing, so this is the crowning jewel so far in the symbolism series, because this is a real person killed for this movie. They used his footage. They did not even mention his name, even though he contributed this footage to the film. So it's like, F him, who cares about him? This is pretty bad, guys. I mean, this makes the movie like 1,000 times worse. Like, this movie was already a bad movie, but once you add a bad movie where somebody got seriously injured or died making it, that makes the bad movie like 1,000 times worse. Like, that's the reason why people laugh at The Room and they just, they're like, yeah, that's a funny bad movie, is because nobody died making The Room. Nobody got really badly hurt. Like, I heard some people did pass out from not having water or something. Like, there might have been something with that, but nobody died making The Room. Somebody died making Don't Make Waves. That's pretty bad. I mean, I don't even have anything else to say. I mean, that's pretty damning, in my opinion. Like, out of all the things that I've talked about, out of all the things that I've discussed, that's pretty bad. So anyways, I don't really have much else to say about the movie so far. I might, as I said, I'll probably do another video where I try to delve deeper into the plot, into the characters, which is very hard to do since it's all trash. So anyways, let me know what you think about that. That's really unfortunate that the people who made the movie couldn't have even put his name in the credits. It's almost like they didn't want you to know about that story. It's like they didn't really want you to see that story and then be like, oh, really? Which is typical nowadays. Or nowadays they can't really hide anything, so they'll have to come up with some really stupid story, and then you get to know the really stupid story, and you don't really know what happened. So please comment and subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest movie analyses like this. This is just very much focused on people behind making her movies with an agenda, a sacrificial agenda, and really just, it's hard to even describe. It's like communicating through code. Like, these are all coded movies that they're communicating through. And to who, I don't know. But they're pretty retarded if they can't just take a phone call. Like, just imagine, like, hey, call me and tell me who we're sacrificing next week. Oh, no, sorry, but you're going to have to wait for this movie to come out, because you're going to have to watch the movie and figure it out. That would actually be a pretty funny, like, animated comedy skit where, like, a cult member has to decipher a movie and figure out who he has to hire to have killed or something. Like, that'd be pretty hilarious. So goodbye, everybody. See you soon.